Alright, what's up you guys? Welcome to this lovely Wednesday SHARKNEWZ live stream. How is everybody doing tonight? I'll tell you how I'm doing. I'm doing pretty well. Why? Because it is raining outside, and it's been raining for the past 2 or 3 days here in the East Coast, and man, it's such a beautiful time to talk about action figures when it's raining outside. And especially being in the toy room, oh man, that's what you call toy therapy at its finest. So to all those that are going to be watching after the stream's over, I welcome you to, or I thank you for watching after the stream. And for those that are here tonight, thank you so much for joining in, whether you're watching on whether you're watching or you're in the chat, you guys are always equally as important, so thank you so much for joining. We have 49er Brian, we have Chris Yule, Robert Wantland, Sendel Krishnan, Roland Mack, Checkpoint Alpha, Derek Holloman. What is up, everybody? How's it going? Oh, looks like we have Checkpoint Alpha from Aruba. Very awesome. We have Sendel Krishnan from North Carolina. Nice. And then we have Robert from St. Louis. Damn, so this is a whole out of state type of chat tonight. So this is amazing. Very, very nice. And I appreciate everybody with the shark emojis. Robert, Sendel, Derek, thank you so much for the shark emojis. Chad Kinsler, what's up? Chad Kinsler is a awesome supporter since the earlier days, so thank you, Chad, for always being here. Tito Manishir, welcome. Another longtime supporter. We have Reg325 from Tennessee. Very nice. Chad Kinsler is from Atlanta. Very cool. Tito Manishir is from freaking Miami. Awesome. And cool part is, I saw Too Fast to Furious the other night, and I was like, man, Miami looks mad cool. Not a great movie. Well, actually, no, I love that movie. It's not one of the. It's more of a funnier movie than a faster, funnier, or a better version of Fast and Furious. But I love it. We have Nathan Paul all the way from Seattle. Damn, that's what's up. This is amazing. This is like, I'm telling you, GI Joe really brings people together. This is incredible. Roland Mack from the DMV area. Very nice. I'm actually going to be in the DMV area next week, so that's going to be fun. I know there's probably not that many toy stores around, I think, but I will be in the DMV area. We have Chris Yule from Pennsylvania. Very nice. I'm very jealous of Pennsylvania because they really get a lot of snow compared to the super duper East Coast-ish. But man, PA is so lucky. Checkpoint Alpha with the shark emojis, very nice. Tonight's beverage is sponsored by none other than Sprite. And this Sprite is actually really cool because this one's a brand new flavor. It's like tropical mix or whatever. So this one's one of the cooler ones. Last week I had the Sprite kiwi and strawberry. This week we're doing tropical mix, so it's going to be nice. Roland Max says, where am I at, Shark? I like to consider without revealing a location because G.I. Joe is supposed to be a classified thing. Let's just say I'm in the vicinity of, in the bubble of New Jersey all the way up to Boston. So somewhere in that melting pot. We have Christian Henrik Cornemus Bagpipe High Shark Quebec City from Canada. Big shout out to Christian. Christian is no stranger to the channel as well. Christian was a very awesome subscriber gifter who sent in these very awesome, what do you call them? Not only GI Joe and Cobra coasters, but also these, I think they're called tumblers. Damn, it's like those oh shoot, what do you call them? Those like giant mugs. I apologize, Christian, but Christian has a very awesome store on, I believe, Etsy, so hopefully check it out on the Retro Shark channel. You'll see the unboxing of those cool gifts, and I do have his link in those videos, so go ahead and check it out if you want some cool G.I. Joe Cobra coasters or mugs and stuff like that. Pretty awesome. But thank you so much, Christian, for joining in on the chat. All right, so let's get on with it. Tonight's stream, we're going to be talking about the 2025 supposed G.I. Joe Classified HASLAB, which is still up in the air right now. It could either be canceled or it could also be still on the way, and the G.I. Joe team is very much doing a super duper hide and seek kind of deal. Maybe it's still coming, because word on the street right now, it seems like Hasbro has delayed the or they went back to their original prices on Hasbro Pulse. I'm not sure if that's correct, but I did read something about Hasbro Pulse didn't really add the tariff prices yet, I suppose, or maybe they got into some kind of agreement. I don't know what's happening right now, but something like that. Marnoose28 says, "What's shaking, Shark?" from Vancouver, Canada. So amazing to see some Canadians here in the chat. Very awesome. So rumor has it for the past, I don't know, few months now, that the G.I. Joe Classified HASLAB has been, I use the word canceled loosely, so it could either be postponed or delayed. Who knows what's happening. We still have PulseCon. They could announce something then. It doesn't really strictly have to be YOJOE June, but you know, any big live event, they could still incorporate a HASLAB, which could be PulseCon, San Diego Comic-Con, and then Hasbro's 10/27 event in October. So we could still have a HASLAB, maybe just pushed back later in the year, or maybe it could be postponed till 2026. Maybe because of what's going on in the world right now, we might not have a HASLAB, just for the sake of convenience and people trying to balance out their money. But regardless of all that situation, in today's video we will go over all the potential G.I. Joe Classified HASLABs from now, 2025, and all the way up to 2035, just because let's say for the sake of this live stream and conversation that they release a HASLAB every single year. And if they release one every single year, then based on the list that I compiled for tonight, this does not include smaller scaled vehicles that could easily be Pulse exclusive, stuff you can just order from online if they ever decide to make it. So that excludes like variants of like Stingers and Vamps and motorcycles and attachments like the MMS and HMS and all that stuff. This list strictly talks about the bigger scaled vehicles that will most likely be HASLABs and can be HASLABs, because as we know, and I've made many videos about this before on either this channel or all the other channels, the point of a HASLAB is it has to be big enough for them to say it has to include all these certain aesthetics into it to make it worthy of the price, but it can't be small enough that it screws over or pisses off people to say like, this is such a small little vehicle, it doesn't need to be a HASLAB. We've seen with the Ghostbusters Ecto-1, that HASLAB, it looks really great, so we'll benefit of the doubt. I do have some vehicles in that size for G.I. Joe we'll put on that I have on the list. But the list will also contain very popular vehicles that the G.I. Joe team has already stated that they will definitely not be doing in classified scale, so we can pretty much rule them out. I do have them on the list for tonight, but they did say that there's certain specific vehicles and certain playsets that will not pretty much be made because of the scale of classified figures being 6-inch and how big the playsets will be, and which we'll talk about later on in the stream. So let's see here. Chris Yule says tariffs are delaying everything, even news for everyone is wait and see. That's very true. It's been really slow with GI Joe news, and it's also because we're about 2.5 weeks away from YOJOE June, so they're probably being very, very low key about it. The only new information that we'll talk about every live stream are the leaks and prototypes, which I want to put on the screen here. The latest news at the moment is having Taurus and Red Dog having listings being leaked out. So we know that Taurus and Red Dog are part of Sergeant Slaughter's team, and that includes with Mercer. So we know that Sergeant Slaughter will be in a 2-pack with Mercer. So we don't know at the moment which version of Mercer it is. It could be the Skybound comic version, or it could easily be the first original version of Mercer that we see in the 1987 GI Joe movie, or it could be the Mercer with the black hair, the version, I think it's version 2 from the Deke series. And we don't know right now. I think Taurus and Red Dog are considered to be single standalone releases, so we'll see how that turns out. But other than that, we know that Mercer and Sergeant Slaughter from the 2-packs have been leaked in the sense of we've seen Mercer's torso, we've seen Sergeant Slaughter's head sculpt and hat and torso. The Cold Slither 4-pack has been leaked out in the sense of we've seen prototypes of those figures already out. Someone already has them, and then we've seen the retro Greenshirt army builder already in someone's hand. So yeah, there's really not too many names that we've announced or they've announced so far in terms of what we can expect moving on with the remainder of the year, but it should be cool. Let's see here. We have Chris Yule says, I watch him for my shipping news. I don't know who you're referring to. Mawcom says, I need a HASLAB 2025. Keep the excitement going. Yeah, I mean, to be quite honest, like the HASLABs are the big incentives of the year for sure. And one of the biggest rule of thumbs I always been saying since I've been covering Joe news since 2020 is that GI Joe runs in like a pie chart, right? 30% are the figures, the other 30 is like the army builders, and then the other 30 is like the vehicles, and then the last 10% is probably like the playsets. So without the vehicles, you're kind of hitting a very niche market, but without the vehicles, it's not technically, GI Joe without them. So we need to have those. Mercer should be in a 2-pack with Stiletto. If you're going by the lore, says Holonet. Welcome Holonet to the chat. Craig N says Shark emoji. Welcome as well. Julianari says release the Fang. I think this is your first time here in the chat, so welcome Julianari. Thank you so much for being here. Benedict says I think Hasbro will be bought out. Their mismanagement has been tremendous. I don't think anyone's gonna buy out Hasbro. They might. I mean, Hasbro is a pretty profitable company regardless of how sucky their marketing is, but compared to the rest, they're still doing fine. Robert says I would have been down for the Renegades, but don't need another Sergeant Slaughter. Yeah, so we've discussed that in the last live stream, that it's a very nice marketing gimmick, because if they release Mercer, the classic Mercer that we all want, then it's like, in order to get that Mercer, you have to buy Sergeant Slaughter again because he's in a 2-pack. If this Sergeant Slaughter was the original Sergeant Slaughter with the black tee, then I would have said, okay, that's a very nice 2-pack. It's a mandatory to get, but it's kind of like a screw job of saying, shit, like I don't need another Sergeant Slaughter, but I have to get it in order to get that Mercer figure, especially if Taurus and Red Dog are coming out soon or at some point in the year or next year or whatever. So that kind of ruins a lot of it. That like shit, like I got a double dip on names, but unless Sergeant Slaughter is a character that you guys all want, then I guess it is what it is. Joe Barrett, welcome to the chat, says hello Shark, just got on. Patience is the way to go, especially with the HASLAB. I'm still thinking the Mobat is going to be the HASLAB. Oh, well, we'll talking about that shortly. Craig says I'm looking forward to the discussion. Me too, man. I should get onto it because there's a lot to talk about. Robert says, would have been down for the Renegades, but don't need another Sergeant Slaughter. Did I read that already? I don't remember. Holonet says, Mobat does make the most sense considering they are pushing retro OG-13. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's only 5 more figures left. Let's see if they can pump out those 5 figures. Someone made a really good point, and I've been saying it for a while now. With there only being 5 figures remaining in the OG 13 left to make, someone even mentioned in the comments of the SHARKNEWZ video that they're gonna stall the shit out of those last 5 figures, because they know that half of the fan, or a little more than half of the fan base, is definitely into the OG 13, and that's where the diehard G.I. Joe fans are. Vulture, welcome to the chat, says, what up, Shark? It's good to see you, man. Happy to see you. Nerd Alert says, well, yo, what's up, everyone? How's it going, Nerd Alert? Thank you so much for joining. Marnu says, I wonder if the Sergeant Slaughter figure will be the one with the USA on the shirt. Well, based on the prototype leak, the Sergeant Slaughter looks like it's the one with the khaki colored and the maroon camo colored design, or camo colors, so the maroon one. So it looks like it's going to be the beige and maroon Sergeant Slaughter. Unless, yeah, because the style of hat, the beret that they gave him in the prototype leak, indicates that it probably won't be the USA version. Roland Max says, we all know they're probably going to go retro card them too. Very true. All right, so let's move on because we have a lot of crap to talk about. Welcome BD Bonzi to the chat. It says shark with the exclamation mark. Thank you so much for those emojis. All right. So, starting up first, let's talk about the HISS tank. So, first, shout out to 3djoes.com. Thank you, Carl, for allowing me to use these images on tonight's stream. So if you want to check out some really cool, like original Joes, you can check out 3djoes.com because they're allowing me to use these photos. Anyways, so we're going to quickly and briefly go over the already released HASLABs, which is the first one being the HISS tank. And we have a comparison next to the original HISS tank as well. So we can see that, you know, we got some new updates within the HISS tank. We got some LED lights, and it looks roughly the same. I mean, sticker decals, design aspect, of course, they added some more attachments and different canopies and treads, and, you know, like more bang for your buck, I suppose, because the HISS tank is pretty massive. Actually, is Sendel Krishnan still in the chat, by the way? Is Sendel Krishnan in the chat? If he is, this does not go unnoticed, because if you actually see how giant ass this HISS tank is, I still have it, the HASLAB HISS tank, so thank you, Sendel Krishnan, for this gift, but I have it right besides me, so it's pretty massive compared to the original like O-ring version of the HISS tank. So it is huge, it's massive. The only thing I don't necessarily like about it is the fact that the back you can only fit like one figure when it should be at least 2 figures at most. I feel like there's not enough space to have like 2 figures be there. But overall, with this being the first HASLAB, of course it was going to go apeshit on everyone. The vehicles were completely necessary, it's needed, and this was like an A+, especially with the tiers and all that stuff. So I thought this was a very job well done in order to be the first ever HASLAB. Start off with Cobra, and you know, it was going to be a very well hard hitter. So then the next HASLAB they made was the Dragonfly. On the bottom we can see the original Dragonfly, and then the top is the classified version. You can see that they did some updates with the propeller, and then they gave us a lot more decals and stickers and fires and missiles and all that other great stuff. So in more LED, I think different types of LED lights as well. So then there's some color schemes I couldn't nitpick on in terms of like missiles or like some type of like some kind of ideas for the Dragonfly, but like, you know, nitpick just a little bit in terms of those little red lights on the top that should have been, you know, wired in with some lighting or whatever, but that's really okay. But overall, the Dragonfly also became a huge success and a huge hit because not only do we have, again, another Joe vehicle to kind of go against the HISS tank, especially if you're up in the air, but at the same time, you are, what do you call it? You are getting 4 brand new figures, 2 which are part of the one of the best sub teams, which is the NIGHTFORCE, and then you have Wild Bill, and you have what I consider the rare Glenda, because Glenda is going to be a freaking sought after figure at some point in the future. So the Dragonfly was definitely a great direction to go in. It's massive, it's huge. Well, I have my Dragonfly on the left side. Let me get that shit while I'm at it. So I've come locked and loaded for tonight's stream. Here's my Dragonfly, the HASLAB one. So it's massive, it's huge. Oh crap, won't even fit on screen. But either way, it's a very, very nice, big vehicle. Is there batteries in here? I don't remember if I tossed in batteries, but where's the button for this? I don't remember. Whatever. Anywho, so very nice vehicle. Oh, it's not even on screen. Very nice, big vehicle, pretty cool, love it, enjoyed it. It was nice to talk about it. Okay, so now, moving on, the next HASLAB, which is the one that's coming out later this fall, or it should be summer or fall, roughly by around near the end of the year-ish, we have the HASLAB Rattler. Now, this is what makes the situation a lot more interesting, and that's because if you were to look at the Rattler, you would see that the Rattler is humongous. I mean, it's pretty massive in size, and compared to the original O-ring version, you know, you got, you know, of course, the LED lights, some more bang for your buck in terms of some destroyed components in case, like, some, you know, you're getting fired at from the Dragonfly, or you know, you got the Gunner and Baroness, and of course the patches do suck, but you know, the highlight here is definitely going to be Wild Weasel. But overall, the Rattler itself is possibly, at the moment, in terms of from length wise, or even from left to right, you can see that it's pretty massive in size, and the Rattler is definitely going to be probably, so when you do like the size comparison, if I remember correctly, the Rattler is more wider obviously compared to the Dragonfly, and it's I think it's roughly the same length as the Dragonfly as well. Maybe it could be a little bit smaller, but in terms of width, it's definitely it's pretty huge. So we can already tell that the Rattler is the biggest classified HASLAB for now. But now the question I ask all you guys that are here in the chat and those that are watching, do you think that the next HASLAB will be even bigger than this, or do you think they will tone it down and scale it down? Because according to all the figures we're going to talk about next, or all the next vehicles we'll talk about, there's a lot of you know, there's a lot of different sizes, and the GI Joe team did say they did say that some vehicles will not be made in classified scale, so we'll see how that works. Derek says, can't wait for the Rattler. Holland says 4 foot long and 3 wingspan. I don't honestly remember the dimensions of it at the moment. I just remember visually that it's definitely a lot wider for sure. Robert says, the Cobra HASLABs have been awesome. I agree. Taito says, kind of breaking news. Looks like the Amazon moved up the retro wave to June 9th. Awesome. Vulture says, they did that last week. Bill Lionaire, welcome to the chat, says, I skipped on the Rattler. I'll get all the figures though. It shouldn't be that much, hopefully. Benedict says ridiculous size for the Rattler. For me, I'll just pick up the Wild Weasel on eBay. Marnu says I'm fine with the bigger, but I feel they will do something closer to the Hiss in size, and that will be ground vehicle. The beginner gunner, welcome to the chat, says, "Oh, I don't even mention the dumb patches." All right, aye, Captain. We'll no longer talk about that. All right, so let's talk about upcoming vehicles, because here's the thing: the latest or somewhat scoop that Emily mentioned like a year or two ago, she did say that the G.I. Joe team will most likely not do water vehicles in terms of water HASLABs or water vehicles. So that kind of eliminates a few, in which we'll talk about in a little bit later. So with the first vehicle of Cobra being ground, second Joe being air, now the third being Cobra air, this could only mean that the next HASLAB could potentially be a Joe vehicle, but for the ground. Now, in order for that to happen, we have two options here in terms of tanks, and that one being, we have the Mauler and then the Mobat. Now, either one of these two options are really essential to Joes, because these are like the standard tanks that the Joes use in the cartoon and heavily used in the cartoon. You'll see these two tanks like throughout the entire animated series on various occasions. So I put these two together because they're both kind of like, I feel like in unison in terms of they're both like tanks, right? So we need something to kind of go hand in hand with the HASLAB Hiss tank to kind of give like a Joe's like a more ground advantage, because you know, we've already had an air vehicle for the Joes, which was the Dragonfly, and then we already had two Cobra vehicles, one ground and air. So, and seeing how it wouldn't make any sense to dive into the Snow Patrol and give us like snow vehicles, because we only have right now Snow Job. So it wouldn't make much sense to give us a snow HASLAB, because I think there's far more versions out there or vehicles out there that need to be made first. Now, the thing that I will, you know, will kind of skip over and glance over is the pricing for these, because this was this one will easily be like, it could be bigger than the Hiss tank for sure, because the Hiss tank is a little more stumpier. The Mobat and Mauler seem a lot more not necessarily wider but longer. So, and we have a lot more tires, we got a lot more treads to cover, and we have a lot more I guess firepower to add to these. And then of course you need like the pit for the figures to figure to sit on. So I think any one of these two options. So BD Bonzi says Slaughter's Warthog. Don't worry, we'll talk about that. I've come prepared. So any one of these two seems good, because what was I saying? Because you can easily put one or two figures on top if they decide to do like some more you know, newer additions, but this seems more of a safer bet, just because you have, again, a lot more tires. And then if they don't, you know, I feel like the figures, this what makes it more interesting, because the figures will be more of the incentive aside from the obvious vehicle, but you can easily knock out at least two of the original 13 within these tanks, or you can give us classic G.I. Joe characters that would potentially be hard hitters that would, you know, would look really cool to add into these. Or you can just add like maybe a brand new character, or toss in some very popular names to either one of these, because these two tanks aren't essentially, you know, named to any specific character. But with the green shirts, the retro green shirt army builders being out at some point, it would only make sense to kind of army build the retro green shirts and then give us a a tank to go along with them. So I think this could be a plan for Hasbro, because if they are releasing the retro green shirts, then it's only logical that they do a tank for the Joes, because the tanks will be aided by, or the green shirt army builders will be aided by a tank. So that would probably make a lot more sense in my opinion. Otherwise, if they do a snow vehicle or some other random other vehicle, then that kind of would be interesting. I would still be happy regardless to know what they're going to do, but for these two, I think my best bet is obviously any one of these two at the moment, but it would definitely be bigger than the HISS tank, that's for sure. Pricing, I would have zero idea, so I wouldn't even know where to go. I'm glad, Sendel. Thank you. Vulture says Slaughter's thong. The hell with that Slaughter. Bring the fridge. I feel like they would have had to be motorized. Steve Martin, welcome to the chat. So my only issue with having a motorized vehicle is, I don't know, like I was never a fan of remote controlled vehicles. It's just like I was always playing with them with my actual hand. So to have like a remote control, I guess it would make sense now in today's terms, because it's probably easier that way, but I don't know. I'm not really sure how I don't know. I would just rather just sit on the floor and just like freaking drive the tank around myself. Marnu says, I can foresee a ton of complaining about Steeler being locked behind a HasLab. Oh, I mean, with only 5, like I said, with only like 5 figures left, but even Steeler, I mean, yeah, I mean, any one of those would have to be locked behind a HasLab. They know that the last 5 figures are going to be crucial to the Joe team, or to the collectors, and they're going to make the most money out of that shit if possible. So yeah, because we have a lot of vehicles to go over, we're gonna move on because there's a lot to talk about. But I think for right now, let's say if we do get any kind of reveal for the HasLab for 2025, the Mauler or the Mobat, any one of those two would be very ideal. However, there could be a really good chance that they don't do any of these two, but instead they give us the Wolverine. Now, the reason why the Wolverine could be a potential HasLab vehicle is because we already have 2 Cover Girls. And we know that Cover Girl is associated to the Wolverine, and either version of Cover Girl, whether you get the retro version or if you have the first version, the Wolverine seems pretty badass actually, because you got all those missile attachments, and then you got the very unique design with the treads and the wheels, and then and again, it's only associated to one particular character, but not to say that they would do this, but what if they create female green shirt army builders associated to this particular vehicle? Vulture says they already stated no HasLab Thunder Machine. So I did include the Thunder Machine on this list, but we'll get to that soon. HoloNet says Wolverine is too small for a HasLab. You think so? Because I feel like in order for, because if the Wolverine is small, I feel like it's also too big to be a Pulse exclusive or something to just buy online. So they could either not even make it in general, or they could just say, like, F it, it'll be a HasLab, and they'll just do something to make it bigger to add it into it. But yeah, so I think the Wolverine fits kind of like in a balance of it could be a HasLab, but if it's not too big enough to be a HasLab, then I think it would be too small to be a HasLab, but too big to be a Pulse exclusive, if that makes sense. Because it's not like Vamp size or Stinger or obviously any of the coil bikes. So any one of these could easily be like an option for the Joe team, but I'm not really sure how that would work. Chris says, I was wrong, the Wolverine is reused for the Lynx. Marnu says, I love the Wolverine, it was my first Joe vehicle and is one of my all-time favorites, but it's not much bigger than the Vamp, so I would rather just have it as a normal release. Okay, so then that's also a possibility then. Derek says, Wolverine is... oh, I already read that. Robert Wantless says, down. Vulture says, it's going to be a polar battle... oh, did I forget to put the polar battle bear? Shit, I think I forgot one. Frack. Okay, whatever. Anywho. So then the next one we have here is the... what does that say? Okay. This one you could potentially have as a HASLAB, but you guys tell me in the chat how much would you guys actually want a bridge layer, and then you could have the character toll booth drive this beast around. But do you think that a bridge layer would be a great HASLAB, or do you think it's too soon, or do you think the Joe team just wouldn't even do it? Because I've seen this bridge layer be used many times in the animated series. It's very essential to missions, but I just don't know how many collectors would want toll booth as a HASLAB. So that's one thing. All right, so Vulture says nope. Robert says pass. Nope, says Vulture again. Taito says, I'd much rather have a smaller vehicle more frequently than the price we are dealing with now. Very true. Hollandnet says, bridge layer is way too boring. Benny says, no bridge layer, basic tank first. Very true. Vulture again with the hell to the nope. Chris Yule says, love it, but it's too soon. Jason Atreides, welcome to the chat, says, my ex got a big old gap to cross. I could use a bridge layer. Oh lord. Marnu says, bridge layer would be pretty sick, but I already have one from Ramen Toys coming, so I can do without the official one. Oh nice. BD Bonzi says, need more firepower. Vulture says, that's a negative Ghost Rider. Timothy James, welcome to the chat. I think this is your first time here. He says, I would definitely get the bridge layer. Flaming Crow, welcome to the chat. It's been a while. Says that could be pretty cool. Stephen B says Snowcat with the polar bear battle bear as a tier. Title Manager says bridge layer is going to take up a lot of space when expanded. I mean, even realistically, my Dragonfly already takes up a lot of space. The Hiss tank is, you know, it's there, but it still takes up space. The Rattler is going to be freaking massive. So another tank, regardless whether it's the Wolverine or this bridge layer or even Mauler or Mobat, like it's going to take up space regardless. Like these vehicles will take up space. I don't need a bridge layer. I have a tank to cross the bridge. Vulture says patches. It definitely has been forever. Flaming Crow, it's good to see you, man. Raj Smooth says, well, welcome to the chat. Raj says Snowcat says +1. Hurricane live. I'm sorry, I keep botching your name, but I remember you being an OG supporter. So welcome to the chat, Hurricane. It's good to see you again. Miles McDaniel, I think you're new to the chat, says APC. Say no more, bro. I got this. We'll talk about that. I think it could be cool. Ramen makes a tank. If it could be a HASLAB. Okay, so I guess we can rule out the we can rule out the bridge layer because it seems like a lot of you aren't interested in this one. So I'm sorry, Toll Booth looks like you won't be a HASLAB anytime soon, but it could be a potential made at some point. Todd C says too late to do one now. All right. So another option we have here is a Cobra vehicle. Now this one will kind of destroy the what do you call it? Oh my god, brain fart. It's gonna destroy the order of Cobra, Joe, Cobra, and then having another Cobra vehicle probably wouldn't make much sense. But then we have the Cat, which is the Crimson attack tank. Now, with the Joe team slowly trickling in on Crimson figures, this could maybe be because it's, you know, focused on the Crimson color scheme, but that doesn't make it too much of a difference between a regular tank or the his tank color scheme. But I wouldn't, to be quite honest, I personally would not know what figures would be associated to this particular tank or what tiers they would add to it, just because we've seen the his tank come out with the drivers and the tacticians and all that really cool shit. So they could easily toss in some new Crimson figures. I honestly wouldn't know which or what, but Holonet says we can't have a recolor without the original. That's very true. But then again, the Joe team is capable of screwing people over, so they could easily create the variant first and then go to the original after. But then that would mean waiting till 2026, which technically means the 2025 HASLAB wouldn't even be out till 2026, and then the 26 HASLAB won't be out till 27. So we're getting old, people. Cobra sells, says Hurricane. I agree. Holonet says no. I read that. Chris Yule says Crimson tank after the OG. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a very cool color scheme, though. Don't get me wrong. Like I mean, even the HASLAB his tank, the his tank can be colored blue as well. We've seen a blue variant of that tank as well, but I think it's obviously too soon to have the same tank again in a blue color scheme. But I think the blue would be very, very nice and ideal to have in the you know, in the collection. But before we get to the next one, be sure to hit that like button, because let's help this stream be a force to reckon with. But yeah, so it seems like a lot of people aren't too invested in the recolored before the original first version of the tank, so I guess we will pass this one for now. The next one we'll take a look at here is we have the Havoc. Now, what do you guys think of the Havoc? Is this a vehicle that would look good in classified? Do you think it needs improvement? Do you think, like, I don't know. The Havoc is a pretty interesting looking design as well. And honestly, like, even as a kid, I would love to have like all these vehicles, even in the O-ring. But the size of this big beast will definitely, you know, yeah, it's massive, and the design is very interesting, so it might not do well with having it as a HASLAB. But Jason says, oh, I like this, but he was referring to the tank, the Cat tank. BD Bonzi says, I like it. Chris Yule says, redesign. Vulture says, nope. Robert says, cool to have a cross country, but I don't need this. I mean, cross country for sure. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Havoc, says Holonet. Marnu says, one of my favorites, and it has a shit ton of play feature, can hold lots of figures too, would be a worthy HASLAB. I mean, that's another thing, like, that's the thing that kind of like concerns me when it comes to classified, is we know, granted, that the O-rings are scaled to a way where you can fit like 6 or 7 figures within a vehicle, But with classified being 6-inch scale, it's very hard to have multiple figures be associated to a vehicle. And it's like I mentioned before, if you open the back latch of the HISS tank, for those that have it, even the tactician figure has a hard time sitting in there, who's very scrunched up. Therefore, there's no space for either two figures, because you need to make it bigger. But to have this big beast kind of incorporate a lot more figures, like obviously you can probably fit more in the back or whatever, but it's, I don't know, I have like an issue trying to figure out the scale and size of figures being associated to vehicles, because the ratio would be off, and then you would have to, the GIJOE team would have to customize it to a point where it could actually fit more vehicles, or even take out certain components to make it fit at least one figure in there. Reg says not a fan of the Havoc. Timothy says yes, now you're talking with cross country. Flaming Crow says getting cross country would be great. Jay Valentine says would love to see the Thunder Machine. Ooh. Vulture says people will vandalize it. Todd C. Todd C says it's where Tesla got inspired for the Cybertruck. Steve Martin says, Steve Martin, the actor, it has to play cross country western music. If this is the legit Steve Martin, I loved you in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, man. I never understood the laying down the drive. Yeah, and we know that even the O-rings or classified figures, they look very odd with them lying down, so it's probably not going to look great as well. So I agree with Robert on that one. I mean, in the cartoon, like, yeah, it looks really great. They designed it in a way to make it look fantastic, but to have a toy, it just looks like they're going to be falling asleep, because they don't have like that neck movement for them to push the neck upwards enough for it to be like them lying down and looking up at the same time. You're only going to get enough movement to not to be that great. Holonet says the devil goes down to Georgia. Robert says I read that. Okay, so I guess we can say no to the Havoc for now, but it would be interesting to see at some point in the future. Coming up next, we have the Rolling Thunder. What do you guys think of the Rolling Thunder? Chris Yule says, from a military point of view, this thing sucks. I think this, for me, is going to be a pass, just because the design of it is way too long, way too interesting, but not as... I don't know, like, I guess it's okay, but I don't know how I would feel about owning this one, but maybe you guys might have a different opinion on it. Russell Terrell says, hey Shark, just got home from work, hope I didn't miss too much. Not at all, bro. We're just getting started. Holland, you only missed about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only five vehicles so far. I still got a lot more to go. Nathan Paul, welcome to the chat, says yes. Robert says, Jesus, that's a real thing. Indeed. I think it's one of those vehicles where I would really need to be able to see what the GIJOE team can do in order to update maybe the color scheme, or potentially its design, or maybe the way we can incorporate figures onto the vehicle. I'm not too sure, but let me see. Marnu says it was cool as a kid. Mine is sitting just 10 feet away from me right now. Oh man, lucky you. But it would be way, way, way too huge as a classified scale vehicle. Okay, so since Marnus actually owns this one, I guess this would be extreme too big to be even a classified, which we'll say maybe like a $600 like HASLAB. Rolling Thunder is the daddy of the Havoc. It would need to be at least 6 feet long and 18 feet wide. Damn. BD Bonzi says one of my favorites, but might be way too big. All right. So Hurricane also says it would be so big. Robert says, how big was the original one? I don't know. I didn't own this, but okay. So I guess consensus of the chat is saying that it's a cool vehicle, but way too big to have as a HASLAB, which it's almost 3 feet long. Shit. That's crazy. So then let's see here. Then the Joe team would probably not do this one at some point. I don't know. Maybe this one is too big for them to even consider. Robert says, really? That's a monster. I mean, yeah, I mean, too bad. I should have put another photo of it being more of a horizontal or like sky bird's eye view so I can see like the depth of it, but yeah, I only have like a side left to right photo, but I should have added another photo to make it better. Marnu says that's closed, it opens up bigger. Oh, it opens up? Oh shit. Okay, so I guess we can just say this is not going to be a realistic HASLAB to make, I guess. Russell Terrell says, how about a HASLAB 3-pack of the Flak, Hal, and the twin battle gun? Ooh, a HASLAB 3-pack? Oh, man. Hurricane says, have 3-foot missiles popping out. Title Manashir with the jokes, saying that's basically a skateboard. There's 2 missiles in that thing. Wow, okay. So I guess we can agree then that this is way too big to be a HASLAB. So as a lot of you are saying it looks nice, I guess. Oh shit, so it extends. Okay, all right, well, I guess it's not gonna work then. Melvin G says just bring it. Okay, well, I guess we will. I didn't know this thing was that popular. All right then, so see, I'm being proven wrong. That's great, I love it. All right, so let's move on to the next one. I guess we can agree that it's a good vehicle, but too big to be a HASLAB. And of course, with that, the bigger it gets, the more pricier it's going to be. So that's going to be very unfortunate. So yeah, maybe 2035, 2030, maybe, but maybe we won't see this one at all. Who knows? All right, so the next one is going to be up for debate as I put both of these together, and that's going to be the Snowcat and the Thunder Machine. Now, these two, well, the Thunder Machine is already too small to be a HASLAB, and the Snowcat was rumored like last year or even a year ago. It was rumored to be one of the HASLABs, like in the like part of the conference or whatever you call it, where they're like the surveys or whatever. So I guess we can rule out the Thunder Machine as a HASLAB, but the Thunder Machine would be fantastic to have as a Pulse exclusive or some kind of website to have, you know, to be owned, because you can put the Thrasher figure in there, which would be great. The Snowcat, though, despite the Snowcat being more smaller scale, and it won't necessarily be big as, you know, like a tank or whatnot, but I feel like we have to be cautious about scale and size in order to fit the figures inside the vehicles as well. So very good chance that they could upscale the Snowcat to make it into a HASLAB. Maybe the Joe team will probably do something to it where they're going to add more compartments to put in like Iceberg or even Frostbite in there, and not just utilize it for like Snow Job or whatever, or whatever the other Arctic character. But Jason says both are great. Both together are doable. Yeah, so I agree with Jason. I think we will definitely see these at some point. It's just that the Snowcat is a little too early, just because we only have Snow Job at the moment, and we need to have more Arctic characters before we get vehicles. Otherwise, Snow Job is just going to be by himself and alone. I personally would love to see them create an Iceberg and Frostbite, and then chuck in the Snowcat to make at least have those 3 figures be with it. And then of course with the Dreadnoks, we've completed like 90% of them. So, you know, with Thrasher, I think he would be a great idea to have. I think Thrasher would be great to have within the Thunder Machine as like a Pulse exclusive. I don't know about the price, but I think Thrasher would be great just to kind of to bid the great what do you call it, to conclude the Dreadnoks to some extent. Toy Odyssey says Thunder Machine would be a Pulse exclusive. I agree. Russell Terrell says, not sure if you mentioned it yet, but I would be on board if in a heartbeat for the Mauler with the heavy metal and Steeler and a couple more Tinkers. So Russell Terrell, we actually talked about the Mauler and Mobat. That was the first one we went over. So yeah, you can check that out after the stream's over, or you can just rewind it, whatever. But yeah, we've already mentioned it. But yeah, I do agree. Heavy metal or whatever, Steeler would definitely be ideal for that. Welcome Wilfredo Diaz to the chat. How's it going? Thank you so much for joining. Hope you're doing well. Benedict says Snow Job as a Pulse exclusive was a crime. Because Snow Job was an exclusive simply because he came with all those extra accessories, because he was no different than the Snow Serpent. So, you know, they're roughly this. Both of those are roughly the 2 same figures using the same exact mold, just, you know, a little bit different head sculpts here and there. But yeah, I mean, if they were to look, I honestly, like, when you're doing like snow missions, I think having the more accessories makes the figure look cooler. So as much as I do agree that it shouldn't have been a Pulse exclusive, but I'm not complaining about the amount of accessories it came with, because I always loved Arctic figures anyway. Cat definitely, but I don't like the exclusive idea because they never make enough something they didn't make yet, says Mr. Madgus. Flaming Crow says, give us Blizzard. I mean, Blizzard, there's who's the other one? There's Blizzard, there's Windchill, and then there's Sub-Zero, and then there's I forgot the other character that was in that G.I. Joe game. It wasn't Avalanche. Was it Avalanche? No, it was another. I forgot the name of the other one. But whatever. Toy Odyssey says he could be a retro card release with an all-white uniform. I mean, he technically is all-white, but I guess you mean whiter. Marnu says Snow Job was up on Pulse for a long time, though. Not sure how that was a crime. I think it's just for the fact that it wasn't available like on Entertainment Earth or like Amazon or whatever. It was really just the only way you can get it was, I think, Pulse, but not sure. I just really need a Thunder Machine and a Thrasher for my Dreadnoks crew. I mean, says Sendel. Yeah, I mean, that would pretty much round out the entire Dreadnoks, because then the last 2 remaining, or the one you would have like Zanzibar and then Zanya or Zanya, and then you have the other ones. I mean, I did make the Dreadnoks video before, but yeah. The Dreadnoks are roughly complete at this point. There's really not that many to make. I mean, there's the other ones like Burnout, but you know. HoloNet says Tundra, Ranger, Stalker, or just about any other Joe character in a snow uniform would be cool. Wilfredo says, God, I'm hoping for a larger version of a Snowcat with a large compartment to more Joes. It would look cool with all the lights. I mean, I would love to see like even a snow vehicle, like people with their photography taking the Snowcat out in the blizzard, and then Blizzard yeah, take it out in the blizzard, and then like, you know, do some cool photography with the Arctic bats and then the snow serpents, and then have like Frostbite and Iceberg kind of do some cool fight scenes. Like that would, the Arctic has always been one of my favorite Joe troops for sure. I definitely need both of these vehicles. Toy Odyssey says another awesome vehicle I had as a kid was the Arctic Blast, perfect for classified. Hell yes, no Snake Eyes incoming. Howlnet says no kidding, Dreadnoks are one of my only sub teams without any vehicles. I mean, yeah, I mean it's also sad that they haven't created motorcycles for the Dreadnoks, but maybe some point in the future, you know, like a motorcycle pack for the Dreadnoks, if that gives Hasbro any ideas, who knows. All right, so coming up next, so I think after the Mobat and Mauler, we can say that these two vehicles will be probably the next essential vehicles in the GI Joe classified line, just because they're small enough to be Pulse exclusives, but they're not that big enough to be a HasLab, especially the Thunder Machine. But the Snowcat can be either or. Unless their whole theme for a future HasLab is snow-related characters, then that would be freaking amazing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have an issue if these two were, you know, released at some point, but not HasLabs. So it would be okay. The next group that I have here is kind of a similar situation with the Snowcat and Thunder Machine, and that's because, again, basing off of what Emily has said in an interview at some point, like last year or a year ago. Now, again, the G.I. Joe team can easily change their mind. They could say whatever we said last time, you know, whatever, like we decided to change or whatever. For some reason, they did say they're not doing water vehicles, which is kind of a bummer because I also love the, you know, the water characters are also some of my favorites as well. So two vehicles that could be Pulse exclusives but not necessarily a HasLab would easily be the Hydrofoil and then Copperhead's Moccasin. So it's no stranger that Copperhead is my top 3 favorite Cobras, and the Moccasin would be very ideal and essential for me to have because I freaking love Copperhead. I love the color scheme, and the teals just look absolutely beautiful and awesome. The Hydrofoil, this was something I've always wanted as a kid, and I would love to see this at some point, but again, based off the Joe team saying that they're not doing watered vehicles, I personally don't know the reason why. And again, it could change at some point, but for now, you know, I guess we'll just have to wait a lot longer for them to create these. But I think these are just two fantastic looking vehicles. The concept, the design of it, the overall idea of putting watered characters, especially both of these being Cobra vehicles, that's badass. I mean, the fact that one of my favorite Cobras, Copperhead, has his own damn vehicle, like that's beautiful. And I really hope to one day get a Moccasin for my Copperhead, but yeah. I've seen it so many times at toy stores when I'm toy hunting and stuff. It's just I've never really pulled the trigger on it just because I always ended up buying something else. Flaming Crow says, I thought Lenny said that wasn't true about the water vehicles. Is it? Did he counterattack or counter that statement? Because I honestly don't know what at the moment of this live stream. I honestly have zero idea what the idea for water vehicles is, other than what Emily has said prior of them not doing one. So I think for tonight's stream, if we can get to 50 likes, I'll make that my we'll do 50 likes for tonight's stream. If we can hit that goal, because we're at 44 likes right now, let's see if we can make it to 50, and that'd be great. Okay, where am I in the chat? Sendel says, woohoo, need water stuff. I agree. The hydrofoil would be a cool HASLAB. I mean, the hydrofoil as a HASLAB, I mean, to be quite honest, like, it would be insane. It was just, like, in a good way, it would be very massive. And I think if they make a classified version as a Pulse exclusive or something, they might skimp out and make it smaller, but we'll see. Who drives the hydrofoil? The Lamprey drives it. Cobra Lamprey. Holonet says hydrofoil, definitely yes. Moccasin is too small for HASLAB. Yeah, the Moccasin will definitely 100% not be a HASLAB. It's very easily can be considered a Pulse exclusive purchase for sure. As long as they don't use cheap plastic, I'll be happy. Let's see here. We need both of these water vehicles as well. Yes, we do. Russell Terrell says, I remember sneaking into my mom's closet at Christmas time and seeing a nice sized box, use a razor blade to slit the tape and unflap, and saw a hydrofoil. Oh, Russell, you're so damn lucky, man. So damn lucky. Ionic Blood, welcome to the chat. Says, I'm late. What's good, everyone? You didn't miss too much. Benedict says, we need lampreys. We definitely do need lampreys. We need undertow. We need lamprey. We need, is there any more that I'm missing? I don't know. Also, shout out to everybody that is tuning in to the stream and in the chat. We officially hit the goal for tonight's stream, which is 50 likes. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate that. You guys are freaking awesome. Thank you for that. We've reached the goal in no time. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, so let's move on from these two because the next one... hold on, let's see how many we have left. Okay. So the next one we have here is something that is one of my all-time favorite vehicles, but this one is particularly going to be the most, probably the most impossible one to make, and that is the G.I. Joe whale. I used the O-ring figure cutter as the height comparison against the whale. So this is what makes the whale very interesting, because if cutter, I hope this size comparison is accurate, because I looked up a few photos on Google to see if how tall cutter is compared to the actual whale, and if cutter is technically that small compared to a whale, now imagine a 6-inch figure next to that whale, and on top of that you have to be able to fit a few figures in the back, 3 on top. This would be easily no less than $700 to $800. I think even $600, as some people are saying in the chat. I think even that would be too low. And on top of that, they would have to do it in such a way where the whale, for all you guys who want to play with this in your bathtub, this would have to find a way to float in the water too. So as sad as it for me to say, you know, as much as I love to have a whale in classified version, as much as my heart would race to instantly support a HASLAB whale, I think this is going to be one of those vehicles that we're never ever going to see in classified, because the size comparison from the figure to the actual vehicle just seems completely unrealistic in 6-inch scale, and it bums me out to even say. I hope they can prove me wrong at some point, but I just think that, yeah, like, I might as well just buy the original O-ring version and call it a day than to be like in my deathbed and realized, you know, Classified still never made a whale, and I'd be very, very sad. Vulture says, Tomahawk, don't worry, we're getting there. Is it really an issue about size when the claw sold out on Hasbro Pulse? And what are you referring to? Yeah, I know, I'm breaking a lot of hearts, I'm sorry. I'm breaking my own heart too, man, so don't worry. As George Costanza says in Seinfeld, I'm going down with the ship. It's probably one of the best quotes he's ever said. Something I use in my daily language whenever something bad happens, or when I'm like, when it's not going right, I just pull off a George Costanza and says, I'm going down with the ship. Mr. Madga says, pause on that playing in the tub, bro. No, you'd be very surprised, man. There's a lot of collectors out there that would play this in their bathtub. I'm not even joking. They would do it. And even if it's not a bathtub, take it out in your swimming pool, man. There's people that are out there in Texas and other areas who might actually have pools. You know, they'll do it. Ken Matinee, welcome to the chat, says, I definitely love the whale for sure. Me too, man. This is easily one of the greatest G.I. Joe vehicles, especially for the watered characters, to ever grace my existence. Man, I love this thing so much. It's so cool. I'm getting too sad. Let's move on to the next one. Steve Martin says, if Super 7 can do a cat slayer, then this is always a possibility. But see, that's the difference though. Super 7 pushed the limits to create the cat slayer. Hasbro is... this is not to be rude, but Hasbro is too cheap to create something that big of a size for like a cat slayer, how Super 7 did it. Super 7, you know, they were hitting the hearts with Thundercats, which is fantastic, but the Hasbro people would easily be like, no, can't do it. Think about it. Put it this way, if the G.I. Joe team won't even invest money in putting cloth pieces on the back of Dusty or Nunchuck, you know, what makes you think that they're gonna push the limits and give us a giant ass whale? You know what I mean? Like, I know those are two different scenarios, but think about money factor and how they're cutting corners to give us figures. They could easily do the same thing for you know, because, and Hollinet, you know, he's saying it's too risky for Hasbro, but we also have to look at price too, right? It'll probably cost Hasbro some type of buttload of money to create, and then in order for them to do that, they would charge collectors double the price in order for them to make a profit. So I hate being technical, but it is what it is. But yeah, either way, I hope I'm proven wrong and someday in the future we do get it. But I think my only possibility of having this vehicle ever be made is they pull some scheming tactic of cutting corners and shrinking the size down of the whale, whereas instead of fitting like three figures on the top, they'll probably have 2 figures instead of fitting like 4 or 5 or even 6 figures in the back of the whale. You can probably be allowed to fit like 1 or 2. That's only if you really scrunch their knees down and, you know, shove them in there, but who knows. Robert says, it is rude that they put cloth on a Black Series but not their own IP. Yeah, I mean, you when you see things in that perspective, you kind of question things. Like, don't get me wrong, I love G.I. Joe. I'm a huge G.I. Joe collector and supporter, but there's some things that Hasbro does that, especially in Classified, that makes me question their methods. Okay, so let's move on from the whale because this hurts. The next, who is this? Okay, the next vehicle is something that I feel like will not be made, or it probably won't be made, because this is the Sky Striker and the Night Raven. And the reason why I say that these two will not be made, because again, going back to Emily in one of the live streams, she did say that a Sky Striker is absolutely way too big for it to be a HASLAB, and she measured the dimensions, whatever the hell it was, and she goes, having a Sky Striker HASLAB is just impossible to, or not impossible, but it's kind of like out of the question, and it's not something that's on the table. And when I Googled these photos, I looked up like size comparisons, and the Night Raven is just as equally big as the Sky Striker, so I guess we can kind of rule these two out. Even though they did create the Rattler, but again, the Rattler can fold its wings like upwards to kind of make it look more stumpier and can fit in size. But the Sky Striker, you know, like that is going to be pretty intense, to be quite honest. So let me get a drink break. Now, the only way that collectors can be pissed about not having a Night Raven is if the Hasbro Marvel Legends team creates the X-Men's X-Jet as a HASLAB, then that's going to piss off all of us, because there's no excuse for the G.I. Joe team to say that they can't do a Night Raven or Sky Striker if the HASLAB Marvel Legends team can create an X-Men X-Jet, you know? So that would be a very interesting vehicle for the, because we know, or at least to me personally, the X-Men are probably one of the greatest Marvel groups in general, and to have them not have an X-Jet is kind of like what the hell, what are we waiting for? So hopefully if the Marvel team can do something like that, then that gives me hope that the Joe team can create a Night Raven or a Sky Striker. I would love to see it at some point. Sendel says, rip Night Raven, and we need to talk about playsets. We're getting to the playsets, dude, don't worry. The playsets is going to kill us all at this point. Flaming Crow says the wingspan on the Sky Striker would be nuts. I agree. Hollandnet says the G.I. Joe has a Thunder Wing. I'll take that one too. Marnu says get the silver foiled version of the Night Raven. Ooh. Yeah, so even though this is an extremely pivotal vehicle for the Joes, or at least the Sky Striker wise, yeah, it's kind of sad that, again, they could change their mind, they could still give it to us, but I think that O-ring version of the Sky Striker, the HASLAB that we had like a few years ago, for the O-ring, I think that's going to be at the best bet for a HASLAB that we're going to get, because again, you take that and then you multiply it to fit two 6-inch figures, and then of course you have the wingspan, as Flaming Crow said. It's going to be insane to do. Let's see. Flaming Crow says the Conquest X30. Do I have the Conquest on here? I don't know. Robert says, I think fans would be pissed about the amount of plastic that's just part of the body that you can't add figures to. Wait, what? I think fans would be pissed about the amount of plastic that's just part of the body that you can't... I'm probably reading this wrong, or maybe I'm having a brain freeze. What are you referring to, Robert? Okay, so let's move on from these two, because I guess we're still in the unrealistic realm of not being made, so that sucks. And speaking of vehicles that probably won't be made, which sucks, is this big beast right here. Now, the reason why I say this one hurts too is because I freaking love the Tomahawk. It is a massive beast of a helicopter per se, but you can fit like 4 or 5, maybe I forgot how many you can fit, like 4 figures, 6 figures, like on this, like in the middle of the vehicle. Therefore, again, going back to the HISS tank, if that one tactician figure is struggling to fit in the back of the HISS tank, how will the G.I. Joe team manage to create a Tomahawk big enough to fit at least 4 figures in the Tomahawk? Like, sure, they can probably fit 2 figures in the front, which, you know, the pilot, co-pilot, like lift ticket, and whoever else he wants. But to manage at least 4 figures in the middle, and then have like that area in the back, the hatch that opens, that allows you to have maybe even 2 more figures fit in the back. I don't know. This one again seems another unrealistic HASLAB, which sucks, and it's sad. Unless they completely redesign, re-engineer the entire Tomahawk in order for them that they close the actual area where figures can sit in the middle and close that off, and then they make it smaller in order for it to be a HASLAB, and that's my only option, but I don't know. Robert says, hell yes. Taito says, I would buy multiple Tomahawks, depending on price, probably. HoloNet says, definitely yes for the Tomahawk. Marnu says, Tomahawk is badass, but I really doubt we get another helicopter HASLAB anytime soon. That's true, too. Russell Terrell says, I hope IKEA makes shelves big enough. Ah, man. IKEA, what a great place. You can always have a third party produce these, says Ken, via plastic vinyl machines. I mean, I've never done 3D printing or whatever, but how is the quality of those compared to like an actual official like company producing them? BD Bonzi says this would be dope. Timothy says this could be easily sold out. Oh, 100%. This would sell out like hotcakes. The Joe team would make so much profit off of this that it would probably cause the whole website to crash. Ken says we'll just need Hasbro to make the characters that came with these vehicles. I mean, lift ticket is very essential to the Tomahawk. Now, will lift ticket be made? Sure, 100%. But will lift ticket be made with the Tomahawk? I don't know. That's the confusing aspect of this entire situation of the Tomahawk HASLAB. HoloNet says, my favorite Joe chopper is the Night Attack chopper. Ooh, that's a good one. Robert says, I'm going to have to build my own shelves just for when the Rattler comes in. Yeah, man. Home Depot is the way to go. Flaming Crow says, I would love to see a Tomahawk. The strictly Valaverse fans will jump in on this as well. Would they? Because Bobby Vala or Valaverse Action Force, they still need to create or reveal that Locust vehicle that's very similar to the Dragonfly, kind of. I still need to see how that's going to turn out. So I think that's their first air vehicle too. So we'll see what the situation with that one will be. Good thing about the Dragonfly is that it has 2 rotor blades for shelf space. This has 5 blades on each rotor. Imagine finding space from the width. 100%. And on top of that, the Dragonfly is a lot more sleek in design, whereas this thing is more like, it has like a higher top, and then it pivots down, and then goes higher again in the back. So therefore, like, you know, it would probably be pretty hard for it to fit somewhere, but, you know, hopefully we find out. But yeah, hopefully a Tomahawk gets someday in the future, but I don't know. It's kind of sad. and that's why it's like when you realistically look at these vehicles that we talked about so far, it only seems like at least 4 to 5 years worth of vehicles that are seemed possible at the moment compared to the ones that are most likely not going to be made. So yeah, that's the Tomahawk. Let's see what the next one we have here. The next one we have here is the Condor from Cobra. This is designed very weird, and I don't think maybe anyone's gonna want this. It's just very bizarre looking to me. I know I'm a huge pass, so I definitely don't think that this will be made anytime soon. I don't think the Joe team would even want to approach this. It's fine if you have it as a 6-inch version, but the 3-inch scale figures, but for 6-inch scale, I don't think this is, I don't know if this would be what people would want. However, HoloNet says he wants a Condor. Robert says definitely cool, but would pass. Damn. I think it's because of the design on the back. It looks a bit odd to me. I'm not really sure. It's more like a space shuttle type vehicle. I don't know. Sendel says, my eyes, it burns, take it away. Mr. Sampson has joined the chat. Welcome, brother. Says that's what she said. Very nice. Marnu says it's almost as big as the Night Raven, so probably too much again. Agreed. Timothy says, oh no, pass, just make the Conquest. I don't think I have the Conquest on this list. Oh, yeah, probably not. Oh man, that sucks. Alright, so let's just move on from the Condor, because it's, as who said this? As Marnu says, it's as big as the Sky Striker and Night Raven, so I guess we can kind of rule this one out to not be made in classified scale. So yeah, what a bummer. But the next one though, because now we're heading into the nitty-gritty of things, but the next one though, we have this juggernaut right here, the amphibious personnel, whatever, this giant ass beast that can just fit a bunch of figures to sit in there in the back. Like, holy hell. But would I like to see this in classified? Sure. But would they actually make it? Especially knowing how big class 6-inch scale figures are, can they actually deliver this? Then that'd be dope. However, well, I guess we'll just have to see how many figures can really fit in this. Otherwise, that would defeat the purpose of not making it. But Robert Wantland says yes. Sendel says yes. Russell says yes. Gimme. HoloNet says I'm not a fan of the APC. 49er says I love the APC, but it's a pass. Taito says hell yes. Samson agrees with Russell. Timothy says this is cool. Taito says I'll take a few. Sendel says a HASLAB or a Pulse exclusive. I think this would be too big for a Pulse exclusive, so it definitely would have to be a HASLAB. Because I never owned this, so I don't know how many you could fit in the back, but based on how small 3-inch figures are and how big this thing is, this thing would have to be really big. I think classified scale, you can probably maybe fit like at least, it should fit at least 6 figures in there, which would be great if they make it. It would be retail since there's not much to it, says Russell. Russell also says, to be honest, anything after 1987 I have no attachment to, so I would pass on them. Any HASLAB before them, hell yes, I would back it. Yeah, I mean, so this list actually only goes to 1980 something. I didn't include anything 90s vehicles or 2000s, I think. But yeah, this strictly focuses the 80s vehicles. Robert says 14 figures, holy shit. because Ken asked how many figures fit in the original in this big truck. All right, so let's see here. Robert says 14 original G.I. Joe O-ring figures can fit in the back of this thing. 6-inch classified figures fitting in the back of a big ass truck, which means this thing would have to be at least the size of the Dragonfly. Holonet says nothing from Deke series. Well, there's still 2 more weeks as the road to YOJOE June continues, so I will have more topics to talk about in upcoming live streams, so stay tuned for that. Let's see here. A whole army, says Macom. It would be Twinge. It had a handle and seatbelt, so you could use it to carry your figures. That's insane, man. Insane. And to be honest, man, like, this thing just looks freaking awesome. I just... Malcolm says twice longer than the Hiss tank. Ionic Blood says Destro's despoiler. So I did not include Destro's despoiler in here because it's more of a smaller scale figure and a vehicle, and that can easily be an exclusive to be with Destro. And it definitely wouldn't be a HASLAB for sure. But yeah, we'll talk about smaller scaled vehicles at some point. We still got 2 more weeks, so I'll think of another topics for sure for next week's live stream. Marnu says, wow, just looked it up and it was 16 figures in the back and 2 in the cab. Holy shit. 16 G.I. Joe O-ring figures can fit in the back of this. And we can barely fit 1 classified figure in the back of the Hiss tank. So now if we do the math, we're looking about, I'm going to guess, because the design isn't that intricate, it's not like a very crazy ass design, I would say at least $450 to $500 for the price point if this was ever a HASLAB. Russell says if they made this, they need to make the tan top some kind of soft material. Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna even do that. Zoran the Barbarian says, listen here, Shark, Snowcat or nothing. I don't know if Zoran, you were here when we talked about the Snowcat. You might be disappointed with my response. But yeah. So that's the APC. I guess we'll come back to this someday in the future. Not sure when, but I guess fitting 16 G.I. Joe classified figures in this big beast seems very impossible. You know, maybe at least 6 figures at most can fit in here, but I don't know. We'll see. The next one we have here is the Warthog. So I actually own the 2000 version of this Warthog. It's also called the Night Rhino, that came with a Dusty figure from 2000s. I forgot which, 2001, 2 or 3. It's one of those years. And so because I own this one, but the 2000 version, the Night Rhino, same design and everything, just a different color scheme. You could literally fit, I think, 6 figures in here. And to be quite honest, it floats in the water too, which I thought was really cool. So you can fit, I think, what was it? Yeah, 3 figures on top and about 6 in the back. Therefore, and there's like pegs. So this could, I feel like the Hasbro G.I. Joe team could possibly do this one. Maybe not a HASLAB, but as something, just because it's like a boxy tank. Doesn't really require much sculpting or designing, I guess. Maybe if they add some kind of updates and elements to it, but we'll see. I said it. Pass, pass, pass. Damn. Sendel says, sweet Jeebus, what the F is this monstrosity? We've already talked about the Thunder Machine, Zoran, sorry. Marnu says, it's a fun little toy, but I think a bit basic to be a HasLab. Taito says, that. I'll take it, says BD. Timothy says, not bad. Holonet says, yes, the Warthog. I wanted the Night Rhino, but could never find it for the right price. I mean, the Night Rhino looks 10 times better than this one, even though it's the same exact design. It's just the Night Rhino looks so much cooler in black and gray, and I love it. It's one of my favorite tanks. Robert says, oh, and you're stuck with another Sergeant Slaughter. Sandel says, more like hasn't lab. Dude's got jokes. Alright, so we'll move on from the Warthog. Seems like not that many people would be interested in this one, so we can consider this like an easy pass. Holy shit. Zoran the Barbarian says, listen here, Shark. Tactical battle platform or nothing. So there you go. Tactical whatever battle platform for you. So I don't know what to really say about this. I love it, but how would the G.I. Joe team add this into the market? Is this one of those things where it would be a build a something? Because there's no way, unless it's like an actual HasLab and like everything comes in the box. But this thing is it's pretty cool. Would you guys want it as an actual HasLab, or would you want it as like a build a whatever piece? Let's see here. Robert says yes. Malcolm says I'm down for that one. Sendel says yes. Zoran says make it big enough to put a HasLab Dragonfly and it'd be a winner. Jeez, that's insane. BD Bonzi says 100. Sendel says shut up and take my money. Christian Herrick says I would love the water moccasin or the shark. So I didn't include the shark on here just because it's supposed to fit Deep 6 in there and it's not like a super duper big, but I think we can talk about it in another live stream. Great idea. Malcolm says heck yeah. Flaming Crow says had this as a kid. Marnu says yeah, I'd be down for this one. My brother and I played the hell out of it. I mean, I can see replay value is insane. I mean, I never owned this, but I can see how playing with this as a kid with 3-inch figures would be very, very awesome. Let's see what else we have here. Where did I leave off? Robert says I'm up to a spare house now because he went from shelves in IKEA to Home Depot to now wanting to buy another house for his figures. Zoran says make it the size of a cheap like coffee table. Damn. I don't know. Well, that might work. Sendel says I'm serious in parts. I don't know. I think in parts might work. It just depends. That might piss people off because we've seen how the Hasbro Marvel Legends team, when they were doing Build-A-Figures with the Avengers movies and Infinity War and all that crap, that in order to get a Thanos head, you would have to buy a character like freaking Songbird. So imagine the most pivotal piece for this platform comes with like the shittiest G.I. Joe character you can ever think of, and the only way to complete it would be buying that character. So Sendel says make this game changer, at least it would be the size of a whale. It's got to be a HasLab, it's got to be huge. Incredible, says Timothy. Russell says a centerpiece for the formal dining table. Shoot, how big are all your houses, man? Mr. Sampson says, heck no, would take up too much real estate. Holland says, way too big. The real question is, would it float in the pool? I think it would have to, but I feel like the amount of time it takes to bring it into a pool, and then all the figures just falling off this damn platform and into the pool, and you have to dive into the pool and get freaking a gun or something. That would suck. Marnu says, hey, I bought the Songbird and then just threw the Thanos head into a bits box. Oh shit. My bad. Sendel says, Robert, just plan to live on the platform, cheaper than buying a house. Sendel speaking facts now. Alright, let's move on to the next one, because the next one is going to be just as insane as this. So you guys let me know if this is something in your alley. So I guess people want this thing, so I guess it's needed, but will it be a HASLAB? Will it be a build something? Not sure, but I guess at some point we could get it. The next one here is the mobile command center. Now we're hitting into the big nitty-gritty of G.I. Joe. We've kind of derailed from the possible vehicles that can be made, and now we're heading into the unrealistic territory. This big behemoth seems like something that's never ever going to be made, just because not only is it a big ass, it's huge, but then you can also open it up and it's like layers and layers and layers with walking platforms, and I don't know, man. Like, this thing is just, oh man, it looks freaking awesome if you owned it for 3-inch figures, but for classified, that is no siree, Bob. Let's see. We're getting some reactions here. Who's the driver? A Jawa? I want the MCC, most likely too big for a HASLAB though. Love it, but this would be a massive as the Rolling Thunder, but even taller. I do want a stream roller figure though. Just making an OG pit. I mean, think about it. This thing is big enough to fit 3-inch figures and still be able to incorporate platforms and steps and you know, like all these TV screens, and like, based on whatever the hell I'm looking at, like all these different areas. To have a classified version of this one, you're talking about like those, like those plastic ladders that kids play on, like the ladders that goes down a slide. It would probably have to be like as big as those little kiddie slides in order to fit like freaking classified scale figures in here. And as much as it would be great to have, I just don't think this is a completely realistic thing to make. So we can kind of bow down and say rest in peace to the mobile command, because I mean, this is just, I love it, but it's not gonna happen. This is a damn. 49er says never happening. Holland says I have the Spy Troops version. Zoran says the Cobra bug. Sure. Royce Wilkerson, welcome to the chat, says that thing would be probably the size of a sofa. Yeah. Better yet, man, you can probably throw a mattress on it and sleep. Like, you can probably buy this thing for classified scale, open it up, and you'll have enough area to fit a mattress in there. You don't even need a sofa at this point. That's how big this thing is. Zoran says the elevator on the side is to bring up the craft service catering. Yeah, I mean, those Joes need their food, man. But while we're on the topic of unrealistic things, I don't know how you guys would feel about the next one, but this next one though is the Defiant. If you're into space, if you want to be like Katy Perry and say you bought a Defiant and suddenly you're an astronaut, then hell man, like that's the thing. You can, I don't know if you guys can see it. I don't know if you're watching this on your phone or TV or whatever, but you can see a figure that's actually placed on the bottom left of the Defiant. Actually, there's two figures. Now, look at the size of those two figures inside the freaking Defiant. Do you really think that the Hasbro G.I. Joe team is going to invest money in this big shit for a 6-inch figure to kind of hang around into a freaking, you know, to have a space shuttle? I mean, this is another vehicle or something on... This is one of those things where you need to play this with the Battle Force 2000. Or as Sendel says, Space Force. Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is just something, man. This is like... I don't even know what you want to call it. This is like massive. The Crusader maybe, but not the Defiance. Oh, Rachel's Salinas, welcome to the chat. Having the spaceship as a HasLab would be a dream come true. I wanted as one as a kid. There's actually a photo on Google, or I think there's probably a few photos on Google of like kids from the 80s who actually bought this thing. People are sitting on top of the damn box. That's how big it was. There are kids sitting on top of the Defiant box. So now imagine the big ass box this big thing would be in. I don't even think UPS would even... They would just be like, come and pick this shit up. They wouldn't even bother like putting it in their truck. Mr. Sampson says, heck no. Malcolm says, hey Shark, by the way, this is a really cool and original idea. We know it takes a lot of effort putting all this together to open a debate. Thank you. Thank you so much, Malcolm. That means a lot to me. I really do appreciate that. It does take quite effort-ish to do, but because all you guys that are watching and in the chat, it's what encourages me to put in the effort. So I would not be doing this without you guys. So thank you so much for everyone contributing in your own way. So thank you guys for that. And thank you, Malcolm, for that awesome comment. Marnu says would be the size of a Ford Explorer, or maybe the size of a what was it, the Cybertruck from Elon Musk. Zoran says, yeah, but it was made out of a lot of cheap plastic, so yes, it's possible since Hasbro still has a junk of plastic today. Damn, Zoran throwing shade here. Elon Musk as a tier. Russell Terrell says, what kind of play value would this have? You would need 4 hands holding it to pretend flying or launch. The box itself would need one of those things where the box would say you need 4 people to lift it. You know how when you buy like furniture and then the instruction says like do not lift this alone? You would literally need a box hazard to say you need at least 4 people to help you pick up this box. The tooling of the Defiant was $1 million just for the tooling alone in 1987. Jeez. Zoran says this would not work because interest in space today is not like it used to be back then. Yeah, I can see that. I agree. Robert says FedEx will just drop off the truck. Oh, that's funny. That's okay. That's funny. Wow. Making Shark laugh. That's funny. Zoran the Barbarian says, now if you made the Defiant look like a giant TikTok logo, then it would sell like hotcakes. Maybe. Holonet says, did you guys hear? Someone paid $15,000 for a mint in box Defiant. $15,000? That shit's wild. Ken Matinee says, I think you would have to go pick this up at your local distribution center and ordering. I agree. Rachel says it'd be like getting a refrigerator delivered. You would need one of those straps where you have two guys, where you have the straps one on one side on the other, and then you both lift together, and the strap goes underneath the box, like how they lift like refrigerators, as Rachel says. I think that would be the only way to get this into your house. Mr. Sampson says it's going to be a big play set. Gotta go with the Terradrome. Oh shit, Mr. Sampson is foreshadowing. It's the Enterprise. Jay Gustafson, welcome to the chat. But speaking, as Mr. Sampson says, he wants to go with the Terradrome. So, speaking of the Terradrome, boom. The Terradrome and the 1985 Command Center. Let's be completely honest. The G.I. Joe team is completely naked without any form of a command center or headquarters, so to speak. Cobra is literally doing nothing on people's shelves without a Cobra Terradrome or a command center or headquarters, so to speak. Therefore, if you do not own any of these in the O-ring version, especially the Cobra Terradrome, definitely Google the the amount of layers that the Cobra Terradrome has, just because you're able to fit a lot of figures, including the vehicle that's right in the middle of the Terradrome that flaps out and then flies out of the way. And then on top of that, you need figures to fit around that area with the computers and the text and all that stuff. And then you have the firepower and all that shit. So Terradrome and Command Center, man, this will be like the holy grail for G.I. Joe Classified, but I think the G.I. Joes and Cobras are just going to be like, they're just going to be sitting on shelves. Like, I don't think there's ever going to be an actual play set or an actual home for our characters, just because the Terradrome is freaking massive, okay? Like, it is huge. In order for you to fit that thing, you would literally need to have, I don't know, a lot of space. It's probably this, you would probably need to have like the size of like a dining room circular table. What about the Firebat, says 49er? Oh, I mean, yeah, I forgot about the Firebat. I'm sorry. Robert says, my pit was the focal of all the battles as a kid. I mean, I agree, it should be. Marnu says, I would take the Joe base, but not so interested in the drone. Just no space for that. There is a dude on Facebook who is a 3D printing a classified scale one, though. I mean, if you have a 3D printer, you can literally do like anything, right? Like, I think what makes people discouraged from using 3D printers is not the fact that they can't afford one or don't want to use it. It's just that it doesn't have the official Hasbro stamp of approval or Hasbro like trademark kind of thing. Otherwise, it's like, like custom made. Either of these, yes, says Flaming. Redesign a Firebat but make it bigger and two-seater. But then if you get a Firebat, then that would be incomplete because the Firebat goes inside the Terradrome. So then you would need, like, people would kind of be like, give us both, maybe. Zoran says he wants the Conquest or nothing. I understand, brother. Russell says, the original command base had a spot for the Vamp and Mobat. We already have the Vamp but no Mobat. Imagine the size of this thing. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The attachment pieces that you see on the left and right of the command center, you can fit two vehicles there, and it has an elevating platform. Therefore, man, you would need a lot of tooling for these two, for sure. Ionic Blood says, someone printed a 6-foot Unicron for Transformers figures. Jeez. I mean, I guess they didn't want the HASLAB version. The HASLAB Unicron was freaking insane. Jeez, like that's out of control. But yeah, as much as I would love to have, I mean, it kind of sucks though, right? Because the Joes really do need a command center. They need like a base for them to be to feel like at home. Because sometimes I look at my figures and I'm like, if I had room for it, I would love to display all my figures in the command center, or even the headquarters from 2002. But because of lack of space, the figures are just placed like vanilla poses on the shelf. Now having a 6-inch scale version of these, oh man, like, yeah, we're talking about a giant ass like dining room table for sure, size wise. 2 shelves wide, says Robert. Christian says, I do a lot of 3D printed stuff. Unless you put a lot of work like sanding, the layer lines are visible, and I can't stand this. Well, Christian speaks from experience, so he knows what he's talking about. And speaking of dining room tables, the big enchilada of the entire G.I. Joe Holy Grails. The mother effer USSSSSSS flag. I am completely traumatized and completely destroyed knowing that I'm never going to own this as any time in my life. I will probably die without owning one. And this is just one of those things where I believe Emily said she calculated the scaling for a USS flag for classified figures, and she said it's going to be roughly 18 to 20 feet long. And I'm thinking about a 20-foot base for 6-inch figures. That is obviously the biggest insanity anyone can ever think of. You would have to make your kids sleep in the living room in order to have an entire room dedicated to this big beast. Or better yet, you know, this is just one of those things where it's completely off the table. We know that they're never, ever going to make this. This is just one of those very hard, bitter pills to swallow, knowing that the only way you want to have a flag is to buy the original 80s version, and that's the only way you can sleep peacefully at night, because unfortunately we know that they're never going to make this. And on top of that, with the amount of accessories, the attachments, the sound, the lights, the LEDs they need to incorporate, the amount of space, the amount of space that you need to fit like a Sky Striker on here. If they already said a Sky Striker is too big, this piece of shit needs to hold at least like 4 or 5 Sky Strikers. Therefore, this is unfortunately completely off the table. Antonio, welcome to the chat, says, hey guys, what did I miss? Shark, what's good, homie? It's good to see you, brother. Thank you so much for joining. You pretty much missed like 98% of this stream. But you made it to the grand finale of the USS flag. But this is just one of those things where we can put to rest that, you know, you can be a complete classified completionist, whatever, But at the end of the day, we would, for those that are like hardcore classified collectors, you know, you're probably gonna have to go to sleep knowing that this is never going to be made, unless you do like 3D printing, fine. But unless you're like into O-rings like me and you know, Santa Sampson or Greg Archer, who collects like 3-inch figures, we still have a chance of getting it because we love. I looked up the price at some point. It's like, I think to find this complete in box, not even in box, at least complete on eBay is about $3,000 to $5,000. So it's not impossible, but it's definitely something that's going to be hard. Sabotage, welcome to the chat, says, damn, I missed it all too. I'll watch the whole thing tomorrow. Oh man. Some things are beyond dream projects. Very true. I'll never forgive Lenny for that body positive road pig too. Marnu says, you didn't mention it, Shark, but I would have to put a mean dog on the list of Joe vehicles for HasLab. So much play value in that vehicle. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of vehicles I either forgot to put on here or I didn't. I was trying to look more into the, like, I guess well-known names. I don't know. I know, but yeah. Road Pig was on a bodybuilder. What's 3G when money isn't even real? That's true. Antonio says, so where think the Snowcat is the HasLab project? So if I were to sum up the entire stream, the Snowcat is a potential Pulse exclusive or HasLab. The Thunder Machine is definitely a Pulse exclusive due to its size. The next two HasLabs that could be true could be the Mauler or Mobat. Anything else after that, unfortunately, seems either unrealistic or something that people are just not interested in. Which means, based on the entire list that we have of vehicles that we spoke about in today's live stream, that pretty much means we're in 2025, right? So we should have enough HasLabs to last us up until 2000 and at least 2035. Maybe, because it takes 1 year for pre-order, and then the following year that HasLab releases, and then another one goes up for pre-order. Now, if they do decide to skip out on a HasLab for this year of 2025, that pretty much puts us at a whole entire year's wait until we get the next HasLab, which means you push whatever we talked about in today's stream of realistic HasLabs, which means 2036. And then there's those two Cobra, I forgot the name of it, so somebody help me out here. The Cobra base that we see in the beginning of the 1987 the 1987 GI Joe movie, the air carrier, I think that's what it's called. And then that giant ass Cobra looking thing that Super 7 tried to do a funding for, that was in the cartoon animated series. That Cobra looking thing, whatever the hell that was called from the cartoon, that was like flying in midair. It's like a blue looking Cobra vehicle, whatever that's called. Super 7 tried doing a crowdfunding version of that, but it did not get funded. So there's those two vehicles which didn't come to fruition, which I should have added onto this list, but I guess it is what it is. Russell says, I just hope there is a HasLab this year, no teasers or anything being leaked. Yeah, that's what makes it very, very fascinating, because since HasLabs were created, around this time of the year, we should have had major leaks by now. And when I say major leaks, I mean like super leaks. Like we would have technically already known what's coming out. With YOJOE June about 2.5 weeks away, I mean, they still could keep this very much under wraps and make it the best and biggest surprise ever, which, to be quite honest, like, I would rather and prefer to be surprised for a HasLab and be like, oh shit, like, I'm excited, even if I don't fund it, but I'll still be like, holy shit, like, I want to talk about it, make videos about it, rather than make the video saying, oh, it's already leaked, so we know what's coming out. Sure, it'll build hype, but I personally would love to be more surprised than, you know, find a leak about it. Because last year, around this time, we knew that a Rattler was coming out, and then by the last week of YOJOE June, I think that's when they kind of teased that the Rattler was kind of on the way. And then at Comic-Con, then they did the live event, and then they revealed that the Rattler was the next HasLab. But the fact that we're about 2 weeks away from YOJOE June and we still have nothing about a HasLab that's supposed to be revealed in July, it's either they're really good at keeping a secret right now for this, or we're really not getting anything. Alan Balcom says, "What's up, Shark? Sorry I'm late, but I'm here." So thank you so much for joining, Alan. I appreciate it. I'm glad you can make it, by the way. Rachel says, if they skip a year, the next HasLab should be massive. Damn. I mean, that's the thing, because... So I'm not going to get into the whole tariff thing, but there's a very big possible chance that the Joe team is not going to do a HasLab for the sake of them being unaware... unaware of the prices that they're gonna have to charge. Because let's say they were working on a HasLab this whole time, and let's say the initial price was supposed to be like $300. Now, if the prices of the tariffs were to be included in this thing, that $300 would boost up to at least $450. And I think that's kind of like milking the cow way too hard, milking the patches too hard on collectors' wallets for that type of thing to happen. Hurricane says either the HasLab will be scaled down to 300 or 400. I agree. HoloNet says, can we at least get a checkpoint alpha? True. Sabotage says, I gotta get a 3D printer and not worry about waiting on Hasbro. So much you can do. That's very true. 49er says, Shark tells us what your favorite HasLab would be. I'll tell you. My favorite HasLab would be where are you? Would be this sucker right here. We already talked about it, but this would be my favorite HasLab, because you could have figures like Cutter as a tier or part of the actual vehicle. Then you have like other characters that are like watered characters. Who knows? I would like a playset if they skip it this year. That would be interesting, says Antonio. Benedict says, I'm not that hyped for YOJOE June. So I'm gonna kind of agree with Benedict. Like, I still have the excitement for new reveals and new announcements from GIJOE Classified, but as Benedict says, 2023 was peak for Classified. I think that's somewhat true. I mean, I'm still excited to know what they're going to reveal and release, but it's one of those things where there was a certain time in the past, like 3 years, where Classified was like, you know, they're still strong, don't get me wrong, but it's like that excitement, that anticipation, it made it very, very much, the adrenaline was rushing. Now there's like so many YouTubers, like, you know, doing all these like leaks and all these I don't know, reveals and all this random stuff that it kind of makes it hard to enjoy it as much anymore. And on top of that, they also revealed or released like a lot of the main characters within the past 5 years. So realistically, there's not too many characters left that are like part of the hard hitters. I mean, there's still like, you know, we all have our own opinions on figures that we want. But within these past 5 years, they gave us like almost all the main characters that collectors want. And then the next remaining figures are either going to be like deep cuts or variants or sub teams or re-releases with pinless joints or retro versions of figures we already have, or Deke series versions, or they could either be Spy Troops, Valor versus Venom, Renegades, Resolute versions. So, you know, it's stuff like that. So Alan says, do I like Funko Pops? I do like Funko Pops. Only a few of them. I have a few Funko Pops. I have Mortal Kombat ones. I have Seinfeld. I have Turbo Man from Jingle All the Way. And I have a 7-Eleven Funko. I plan to get the new King of the Hill Funkos. And then I have a few Bob Ross Funkos too. But yeah. So let's go to the group here that we've talked about many times before. The Will would be amazing, says Timothy. Yes, Cutter needs to be a main figure. I want to see a Watercraft, Patches, Removable, Snowcat. Catching up with the chat. I put a topside and Rampart with a Cutter. Battle Force 2000, hell yeah, Zoran. Hal Jordan says, why would anyone be hyped for YOJOE June when some of us can't order anything on Pulse? That sucks. Oh. Yeah, that's another thing, because we're also in a situation where money is tight for a lot of people. Prices are being raised higher. I can't speak on behalf of quality, but I do know like people are losing interest in pre-ordering because they're pre-ordering figures like 6 to 7 months in advance, and then they're just like not even getting their figures unless they have connections, you know, from overseas to get them their figures first. Then, you know, it's like you kind of lose the hype of getting your figures for, you know, like if you pre-ordered a figure back in November, or figures, you know, you pre-ordered back in like February, you're not getting them till August, you know. So it's like people don't even have the dial tone wave with Xandar and Saw Viper, and like 49er says Crystal Ball got pushed back, and I guess people are just kind of like not losing interest, but they're losing like that excitement of like, before we used to like pre-order figures and then get them like 2 to 3 months. Now we're waiting like an entire like half a year or more, like 8 months now. Submarine, Mr. Sampson, add Muskrat to that list. Hell yeah, Muskrat's cool. But based on the list that we have here right now, we have the 4 Dreadnoks, part of the Cold Slither 4-pack, which will be revealed at San Diego Comic-Con. That's a hard pass for me. I don't really, I mean, I like Cold Slither, but not enough for me to want it, so I'm kind of relieved about that. We still don't know the price for those 4 figures just yet. Then we have the Slice and Dice 2-pack, which are going to be 2 figures that I'm going to be pre-ordering for sure, like, because I'm getting my ninjas and I'm excited for that. We know that the Retro Bat and Retro Greenshirt Army Builders are have been in hands of certain collectors. Therefore, there's reviews out there already, I suppose. Then there's the Hawk with the MMS, and then which will be an Amazon exclusive. I will be providing links to that, or I'll be providing links to all these on my channel anyway, so fear not. We still have the Awe Striker with the crankcase. The rumored price point is supposedly $100. That's the rumored price. It could be lower because we thought that the Snake Battle Armor was going to be like $200. Instead, it was like $80 or something, I think. And then the final 3 figures was the 3 HASLAB figures, Wild Weasel, the Gunner, and Baroness, and then the patches, which again come with the HASLAB. So realistically speaking, aside from the Cold Slither 4-pack, the Cold Slither 4-pack and the HASLAB 3 figures, we basically have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We only have 6 figures at the moment to anticipate for. And of course, that only means that YOJOE June will most likely be a lot more intense, possibly, maybe, who knows. Expect this list, this visual that you see here, to be updated as we go on with YOJOE June, because I will definitely be doing a buttload of videos and live streams throughout the entire YOJOE June process, so I'm really excited for that one. Yeah, so it's gonna be a good year, hopefully. But you know, I just don't know who's. I think Mr. Sampson said something about, who is it? Which one was it? Where did he say it? Sampson says they're gonna announce Sci-Fi Night Viper. I really do hope so. I mean, Sci-Fi Night Viper Muskrat. If you guys didn't see my last week's live stream about O-ring figures that I want to see in classified, go ahead and check that out. But Zoran says I'm still waiting for Airtight. I mean, for sure, Airtight is a hard hitter. Yeah, so I think, so like Taito Manashir says, it's going to be a good year when figures actually show up. I think that's what's causing the not so excitement, because people are just like, okay, pre-order. But if we pre-order figures now, let's say, what is it, May? So June, we pre-order figures in June, we probably won't get them till like November or even December at this point, because we're pushing it, unless there's some type of manufacturing dilemma going on and all that stuff going on in the world. Who knows? But yeah. Timothy says, if Cold Slither was a true classified, would you buy? Probably not. It's because I'm not really into like a lot of variants as a collector. I like just getting like the main essential designs. But yeah. Hurricane says, imagine all the order payments popping off when they come in. Yeah, that's another problem. Imagine people have like over, like, let's say 50 to 100 pre-orders. Maybe I'm just exaggerating a number. And everyone's just like chilling. They're like, yeah, man, like we'll wait till October. Out of nowhere, October hits. You're getting hit with what is it? You're getting hit with the 15 pre-orders that we had since February, which, depending how many people bought multiples of. And then on top of that, then you're pre-ordering you're pre-ordering YOJOE June figures, PulseCon figures, Walmart's CollectorCon, which is the NIGHTFORCE, BEACHHEAD, and QUICKKICK. And then there's this San Diego Comic-Con 4-pack. And then if there's a new HASLAB, and then the Hawk with the MMS, who's an Amazon exclusive. So holy shit, man, like within these next like 4 to 5 months, it's going to be a massive pre-order and money binge. And this is just G.I. Joe. I don't know what else you guys collect, but you know, Marvel Legends, Star Wars, Black Series, there's even, you know, Loyal Subjects Mask figures coming out, and then there's all these other NECA figures coming out. There's all these other, you know, you guys are, if you're into wrestling, all those damn figures coming out. And then, what else am I looking at? Then there's all those Kickstarters that people are investing in. Like, holy shit, man. Like, this is a very, very intense year of collecting. And I thought, like, last year, the past 2 years was insane. Like, 2025 is just insane. Zoran says nobody's laughing. Man, we should laugh about it. It's all good. We're all here to laugh. But yeah, I think we for tonight's stream, I think this was probably the highlight of my return, because we've had, I think the highest amount of people watching tonight's stream was 70 people, so that's really good. I appreciate that. Shout out to everybody in the chat and all those that are watching right now. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this lovely Wednesday. It really does mean a lot. And let's see here. Plot twist, Cold Slither playset with the gem and holograms. Wow. gem would be great. They need to do freaking Visionaries, and they need to do 6-inch scale mask figures. Like, I don't know what the hell is going on. Freaking make the damn Visionary figures. Let's see here. I only collect Joe, can't afford the second line, says Rachel. Oh man. Swing, says Zoran. I do Motu. Oh yeah, there's also Motu. Masterverse, Mondo, Thundercat, Super 7, Transformers. Jeez, yeah. Thanks, says BD Bonzi. Of course, man. Well, thank you. Hollandnet says, I wish I could only collect one IP. Oh man, this is crazy. It's making my head hurt. Let's do Inhumanoids too, yeah. I've only picked up a few Valiverse since Joe's have dried up for some time being. I mean, realistically speaking, it's like they gave us 15 figures to pre-order within the course span of 2 months, 2.5 months. So like I said, starting from June all the way up to October, which is Hasbro's 10/27 event, because in between that we still have the Manchester Comic-Con where they do reveals and pre-orders. So from June all the way up to October, we're gonna get our asses kicked with pre-orders and new figures and reveals, which will be pretty exciting. I like the Super 7 Simpsons line, they look great. I mean, I'm really right now invested in the Biker Mice from Mars from Nacelle. Like, those are freaking amazing figures. I don't know if Mattel is doing any more Street Sharks Wave 3. I haven't seen any of that. What else is there that I'm looking forward to? What else am I forgetting? I mean, there's all these other Kickstarters and stuff, but yeah. Hasbro, please, can you lower your prices? Says Zoran. Yeah, don't think that's happening anytime soon. Waiting on 10 monster. Oh, there's also Monster Force. There's Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. There's oh man, there's so many other stuff going on. There's Savage Crucible, etc., etc. So many great brands out there. Anyways, on that note, I think I will call it a night. I don't know what topic I'm going to do for next week's stream, but I'll definitely come back and we'll have some fun with that one. But this was a pretty good one, and I appreciate everybody for weighing in your options on HasLabs. I'm excited to see what the information for HasLab will be for this year, whether it's canceled or not, who knows. Mythic and Cosmic Legions are tempting to sabotage. Yeah, there's even the Meta Travelers. There's, oh man, so whatever, like there's Street Fighter figures too. Holy shit, like there's so many things that I want to collect and I'm losing my damn mind. Oh crap. But yeah. So anyways, I want to thank you guys all for watching. Thank you for hitting a great milestone on the channel. I appreciate everybody for joining. We're gonna have another stream next week, and we're gonna talk about something. I don't know, I haven't planned it yet, but if you haven't seen last week's stream where I talked about the O-rings that I want in classified, check that out as well. To this week's stream, obviously we just talked about HasLab, O-ring, vehicles, and whatever. Next week we'll think of something, but for now I would like to thank you guys all for watching. If you're new, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for all the likes on tonight's video, and thank you for everybody in the chat for commenting and spending your Wednesday night with me. I really do appreciate it. And we definitely do need an Iron Grenadier Destro, says 49er Brian, for sure. Anywho, have a great weekend. Have a great week. Enjoy your collecting. Hug your loved ones. Have great food. Enjoy everything. And thank you for, first of all, before you all leave, thank you all for being such a great toy community. Thank you for making this stream extremely positive. No toxicity, no negativity, no drama, no nothing. We're all here as adult collectors. We all enjoy each other's company. So thank you guys so much for keeping it positive and all that friendships that we're all building here. So I really do appreciate that, and keeping this stream all freaking awesome. Thank you guys. I'll see you all next week, and
Hopefully it'll be a great one, and stay tuned for more Sharknews videos down the line. So till then, I'll see you guys all next week. Have a great weekend, and yeah, enjoy collecting. Till then, I'll see you all then. Peace out.